Radio Tele Emergence. Ici, Radio Tele Emergence. C'est Radio Tele Emergence. Ou besoin d'un professionnel réel dans les affaires assurances, parce que dans les affaires assurances, pas gain avance, libre en chance. Nous recommandons rien seul là, Jean-Claude Jonassin, maître question dans le domaine assurance. Quelle que soit l'assurance, assurance machine, car commerciale, la vie, santé et la trière, prix compétitif, là, dans First Class Insurance and Financial Services, il y a un professionnel courtois, compétent et conséquent capteur là, Jean-Claude Jonassin, First Class Insurance, 6003 Babcock Street, Southeast Palm Bay, Florida, 321-727-8142, 321-727 81-42, First Class Insurance, c'est lui, oui. Ou besoin d'un professionnel réel dans les affaires assurances, parce que dans les affaires assurances, pas gain avance, libre en chance. Nous recommandons rien seul là, Jean-Claude Jonassin, maître question dans le domaine assurance. Quelle que soit l'assurance, assurance machine, car commerciale, la vie, santé et la trière, prix compétitif, là, dans First Class Insurance and Financial Services, il y a un professionnel courtois, compétent et conséquent capteur là, Jean-Claude Jonassin, First Class Insurance, 6003 Babcock Street, Southeast Palm Bay, Florida, 321-727-8142, 321-727 81-42, First Class Insurance, c'est lui, oui. Ou besoin d'un professionnel réel dans les affaires assurances, parce que dans les affaires assurances, pas gain avance, libre en chance. Nous recommandons rien seul là, Jean-Claude Jonassin, maître question dans le domaine assurance. Quel que soit.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's great to be back here. Thanks a lot for you all that have already. I see some of you all already checked in here. If you go ahead and you can put stuff in the comments as usual. What we want to talk about a little bit today is it's a lot of events that have been going on. I've been traveling all over the place, back and forth. Now I'm back here for a little bit. I will not be on next week because I'll be traveling again, but I will be here for, of course, the Father's Day. But what we're going to talk about today is a couple things. One, it's a lot of events that's been going on over the past few weeks. As you know, a lot of these gun involved shootings, a lot of these mass shootings and things like that have been going on. Hearts go out to all those families all over. And this seems to be a systemic problem because, you know, it's been going on for the longest, and we've been talking about gun control for the longest, and, you know, something needs to be done. I want to know what you all's thoughts are about that. The number here is 321-216-6219. No, 6279, correction. 321-216-6279. So we'll talk a little bit about that. As far as like the gun control, we're seeing it appears as if it's easier for people to get access to a high-powered weapon than it is to even go out and buy a pack of cigarettes. You know, even to get a driver's license. In fact, I believe one of the incidents that the young man, he didn't even have a driver's license, but he was able to go out there and get a high-powered weapon. One of the other incidents, this guy purchased a high-powered weapon, and he purchased it like a few hours prior to going out and committing this crime. And maybe something needs to be done about that. Also, you know, to shift gears as well is talk about fathers. You know, we talked last month about mothers, giving mothers their flowers, things like that. But let's talk about some of the fathers that are out there. You know, we all have them. We all have fathers, although sometimes, let's say sometimes the dad may sometimes get a bad rap. Sometimes the dad just may not be involved. And even if he's not involved, right, what are some of the things that we've learned from our fathers that have been in our lives or even been absent from our lives? What have we learned? Because we can learn from either way. We can either learn what to do, what not to do, how to be good fathers, how not to be good fathers, so we can go in the other direction. So what are some of the impact that we've had by some of the dads that have been in our lives, the ones that have been active, that have been going to, you know, participating in a lot of our life's events, that have been going to the graduations, that's been, going to work, going to those things. And then some of the dads, that have just sat down and shared some of the knowledge with us, shared some of the wisdom with us. And some of those that maybe didn't have time to do that, and then they just went ahead and they spent whatever time they could with us because they were at work. They were out there making a living and doing things like that, so didn't have a whole lot of time to maybe spend that time. And then those that, also may have made the time and invested a lot of time into as well as some of the things that we learned from them. And as we look at some of the things that go on in our society with our young men, could that be a reason or a partial solution as to some of the ills that are going on in our society involving our young men? Is it the lack of fathers in the home? And if so, right, what can we do to fix that? What can we do to fix that? What can we do to get fathers involved in that? And even in situations, as we talk, as when I say fathers, of course, we all know what fathers mean, but let's take it even, expand it even a little further to, let's say, father figures, to, let's say, those single parent households where the mother is the head of household, raising children by herself, and an uncle happens to step up, a cousin happens to step up, a grandfather happens to step up, and to be that male role model to teach us as men, or even to talk to some of our young ladies, because fathers are impacted, impacts us on all levels. But how I want to hear from you all, how do you feel as far as how impactful do you believe that fathers are to you, to the family dynamic? How important is the father role? And then what do you feel about, or do you feel that this is actually legitimate or true when they say that, some mothers are also fathers because they're put into a position where they have to some extent, at some level, fill both roles? And if that's the case, how do you all feel about that? What makes it, if you are a father, how does being the role of a father, what does that mean to you? How does that change your outlook, your perspective on life, and how you deal with things, and how much do you cherish, or what have you poured into your children, both boys and girls? What have you poured into your young ladies to empower them? What have you poured into your young men to empower them, to show them, give them an example of what right looks like, and to help them to develop into, let's say, law-abiding or productive citizens in our society? And what examples have we set? As for me, and many of you all, those who know me, know, I didn't grow up with a father in my life. However, I did have some role models, but as I got older and I had my sons, I felt that it was important that I pour certain things into them, and I instill certain attributes into them. Certain attributes such as, being responsible, having certain values like integrity and honor and dedication to things, and taking on tasks, seeing them through, and having some type of standard of conduct in the way you carry yourself, in the way you present yourself, so that you're available for different opportunities that may come your way. And I see this not as me as doing a duty, but I see it as me investing, because time this spent on your children is really it's time that you're investing in their quality of life. You're investing in their future, and those investments sometimes equate to even more or greater value than money could even be, because we invest time to our children, and then as we see them grow, and we see them, even though sometimes it seems like they haven't been listening to us, they don't listen to us, and yes, I'm no different than anybody else. Yes, my kids seem like they don't listen to me as well, and there's some things seems like goes in one ear and out the other. But as you look at them from afar, and you observe them, and you see the way that they carry themselves, the way that they handle their business, so to speak, and you feel somewhat fulfilled because you know you've poured that into them. You've helped to cultivate their character, and some of the times you thought they weren't listening, they actually were listening closer than you thought. What are some of the things that we do as fathers, or what are some of the things that your father did for you, that poured into you, that set an example for you? Showed you what right looks like, showed you how to engage certain things, how to be responsible, what things have you taken on as you become parents yourselves, some of you. What are some of the things, lessons that your fathers taught you that you've decided to carry that on to your kids as somewhat of a legacy, and watch them to grow? Because everything that we know, whether it's eating, whether it's getting dressed, talking, walking, everything we know we have learned from someone else, right? So we teach all the things that we know. We teach our kids a lot of these things. We teach those around us these different things. We teach the things that we know. However, through our actions, through our character, we reproduce what we are. So we can say, we all know people who say one thing, but they carry themselves or do things that are totally opposite. And these are the things that we watch. These are the things that we learn the most from. This is where we see when someone, their words and their character, their actions don't quite align with each other. However, as we see these things now and we start to emulate examples ourselves, how do we do that? Are we actually reproducing what we are? Our kids are pretty much, their behaviors in some extent are the byproduct of our character, of what we've put into them. But I want to hear what you all have to say. By all means, call in, you contribute to this conversation. It's 321-216-6279. As you see, I'm in the booth by myself. Jean-Claude is not here this evening, and that's okay. I wish him well. But we can still keep this thing going. But I want to hear what you all think. What are some of the things that your father may have poured into you? What are some of the things that you've seen other fathers that are around? What are some of the things you've seen them do, and the examples that you've seen them set? Contrary to popular belief, society would have you believe, and numbers would have you, rhetoric will have you believe that a majority of fathers that look like me are locked up in jail, are criminals, doing things like that. But we all know that's not necessarily the case. You have fathers out there every day that are putting in the work, that are being good examples of what fatherhood looks like, of what right looks like, and they don't necessarily get the accolades for doing so. And so, I have a phone call coming in. Hold one. All right, you on the line with Dr. Larry. Who we got on the line?
This your favorite DJ, Slim J.
DJ Slim. Hold on a second, Slim. I got somebody else coming in. Hold on, Slim. All right, you on the line with Dr. Larry. Who I got on the line here? Who I got on the line?
Tawanda.
Hey, what's up, Tawanda? You got Sarah on there with you?
I was just talking with her.
Tell her I said hello. Go ahead and get her in there. But hold on a second, because I got DJ Slim on there. What you got, Slim?
You ready for me to talk now?
Oh yes, we ready, Slim. We talk as you heard my intro. We talking about the gun violence. What could possibly be the solution? We talking about the fathers. What some of the things fathers have poured into us, helped us to develop, and what are we as fathers pouring into our kids? What have we seen? And can that be a solution to what's going on? And what is the problem? What can we do to get fathers more involved in some cases? Go ahead.
Growing up, my dad the things I've seen my dad do, and go to work, come home, tinker on the car, cut the grass, showing some things around the house, things that, had me curious. I think all kids should be curious about what their fathers do and what they're doing, right? Not just be doing his own thing and he doing his own thing.
Yeah.
When my dad went outside and he washed the car, I wanted to help. And I was like fresh, still in diapers, I guess. I think I remember all that stuff where he was waxing the car. I wanted to do it. I tried to do it. Arm started hurting. I couldn't do it. So, or he was changing the oil and I was under the car. He said, "Hey, get back. The car might fall on you." And I got back and I still watched him and asked him what he was doing. He was changing the oil and then paying attention to that. So that's how you change the oil. I was
Learning.
that type of a kid who was just curious, or, what he does at work, how he does his job, the interesting stories he told about shoplifters, how he caught them, things from him taking me out boating, and he had a boat, he took us fishing. I think that was the last time I tried to go fishing because he went too far out, and I got scared. And those days, that was the days when Jaws was fresh in the movie. So I'm looking in the water the whole time. I'm looking in the water the whole time, so I'm like scared to death. Got seasick, ate too many cookies, threw up everywhere. I just said, no, I don't want to do that no more.
Where'd y'all go out at?
He went about 20 miles out into the Gulf.
Oh, so y'all are on the coast of Florida.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it was like, man, it was way out there. Like, I kept seeing the land disappear. It's smaller and smaller and smaller, and I got scared. I'm crying the whole time. And, he thought it was good. Oh, we out here fishing. I hated fishing. I hated fishing. Now, I'll fish if we next to the shore, yes.
But not off the boat.
But not in that boat again, though. The one thing that spooked me when I seen a big giant manta ray in the water went underneath our boat.
A manta ray?
Yep.
A manta ray or a manatee?
A manta ray.
Ooh.
What's that?
You said, what is that?
The size of our boat. It went underneath the boat.
Hold on a second.
Said, what is that?
Hold on a second. Tawanda, you said, what's a manta ray?
Yes.
Oh, that's one of those. It's like one of those stingray fish, right?
A stingray?
It's like one, but it's
yeah,
big.
It's black.
Yeah, it's black. Yeah.
Black on top, and underneath is white. And
Yeah.
They look like giant bats in the ocean.
Yeah.
Oh.
That was one. Isn't that what killed that guy Steve Irwin, right?
Oh yeah.
He got killed by the small stingray.
Yeah, because it shot one of those darts in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. All right, so
rays. That was crazy. And then he took us hunting. That was the first time. We went hunting with him, and he let me use the 12-gauge shotgun as a teenager. So I thought that was, but there was safety involved. He made sure.
That kickback is something else, ain't it? That recoil.
Yeah, I got used to it though. It didn't bother me. And his was his 12-gauge is semi-automatic, so I could keep pulling the trigger without hitting the reload. Right, it reload by itself. And I'll never forget the experience we had camping out there in Green Cove Springs in the woods, and that was near the Army base or training base out that way, because we could hear the hand grenades and stuff they were doing, blowing up stuff. I was like, what is that?
Oh yeah.
And we was hunting, and it was at night, and my dad was shining a light in the tree, and because he seen something, and sure enough, it stuck its head around the tree and was looking at us. and we're trying to figure out what was it. And it kept looking back and forth at us, back and forth, looking, and then hide, and then stick his head out again. And then that sucker jumped down and ran at us. Boy, did we start shooting.
Did you ever see what it was?
No, we couldn't. It was dark. I emptied that 12 gauge out in them woods. I seen the woods moving towards me. When I was empty, I only had 4 shots, and I left, ran.
That's funny.
So that was a crazy experience we had with that. I could say all the traveling we did, taking people out of college, out to Oklahoma, or Roberts, going way out there to Indiana State.
Wow.
So,
That's
that's how
amazing.
I learned how to travel and drive, was through my dad. So he liked to drive, right? So now you see where I get that
Oh yeah,
from.
because you drive trucks, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, coast to coast.
Right now, I'm over here in Austin, Texas now.
Oh man. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, hold on a second.
Yep.
Tawanda.
Yes.
All right. Now, we talking about fathers. We talking about maybe the impact they had on our lives, things that they may have taught us, either in their absence or in their presence or in their absence. Lessons that we learned from our fathers, whether in regards to whether it was as we were younger, lessons we may have learned from them later on in life. We don't give a lot of times. I don't believe that we give fathers a lot of credit, and it was recommended to me to also bring this up because there are others that believe that as well. The fathers don't necessarily get as much credit as they probably should in our lives. But what is your and then of course we talking about some of the stuff that's been going on with the gun violence and things like that over the past few weeks. It's just been getting horrible, and it tends to be worse, getting worse. But what would you like to talk about, Tawanda?
Well, it's amazing hearing you guys talk about the wonderful things that you guys did with your dad, and it is awesome, and that's a good thing, and it's a beautiful thing to hear. Um, the good things that it, that you learned from your dad, and that's the positive energy that we need because 9 out of 10 what we learn from our dads, it's going to stay in our minds, and we're going to travel that over to when our children grow up. They're going to do the same thing, and it's going to go over and over in the next generation, and the next generation, and that's a good thing. Um,
And
I,
that's very true. Very true.
I'm not too happy. I'm not too happy right now. Um, and or I could say where I am right now in Hartford.
Okay.
Day after day, it's been shooting after shooting after shooting. Black killing black. And it's just the way I'm feeling at this point. I don't want to hear Black Lives Matter. I don't want to hear it anymore. It's. I mean, I know that we do have a lot of history with the whites and what we went through slavery, but right now we need to work on us. Right now, we need to get us together because it's a shame that we are killing our own selves. Last week, a 12-year-old boy on Main Street went in and hold up a corner store on Main Street. 12 years old.
Wow.
Now I'm here and I'm listening to both of you guys. And you're sharing the beautiful things that your Slim's talk about. He's helping his dad around that age, changing the oil of the car. And that's wonderful. This kid is 12. He's holding up a corner store. And to me, it goes back. It goes back to your generations. Your generations. What did his dad do? What did his father taught him to do when he was 12 years old?
Yeah.
Back and back and back and back. Excuse me. So you're going back, and all these things that's going around in Hartford, you know, you're killing each other. Okay, I can't blame that 12-year-old boy. That boy, all he seeing in his life right now probably is just violence.
Yeah.
Grown in a household full of violence. Nothing good probably came out of his life so far. And I just said, I made a post about it, that if that kid probably sat down as a family, whoever may be a part of his family, and his father may not be around or the mother, whoever's raising him, go back and ask how his father raised him or the grandmother was raised. Was there a lot of love in the household? Go back and get your generations, and they'll see where it started from. It started from somewhere. It started from somewhere.
Well, I will say this, right? And definitely, I mean, Slim gave some great examples, and of course, obviously and clearly fond memories of his dad and the impact his dad had on his life.
Beautiful.
I will say, I for one, well, I was gonna say, well, before I lead into that, right? I will say, as I mentioned earlier, like I didn't have that type of role model for the most part in my life, like a father figure in my life. So my mom was, she was working, and she was a mother. She could not teach me some of the things that fathers, normally would teach their sons. Things that you would normally teach your sons. The role models I had was out there and said, "You're a Hartford, you know what I'm talking." The Albany Avenue, Blue Hills Avenue.
Yeah.
What you see out there. You know what I mean? And it was so easy for a second there. I was a part of some of that stuff that was going on, and that was not me. I knew that was not me, and I've despaired, from that situation, but not knowing how to. I didn't have examples of how to really be a dad, how to things that Slim was just talking about. Like, to me, coming up, those things are foreign to me. Never had. My brother took me fishing a couple of times. My older brother took me fishing a couple of times. But as far as like a father, I didn't have any of that. I didn't have definitely not hunting. Never went hunting. Never did any of those things. Those talks, those things that fathers normally would have with their sons. Lessons they would learn from their fathers. I didn't have any of that. However, rather than like when I got older and I became a father, that changed my life around. When I became a father, that changed my life around, because now at the situation I was in, I wasn't. I didn't see. I knew from having my son, I needed to set an example. I needed to shift gears, choose a profession that's going to be able to provide for him, so I can pour stuff into him. And then as I had more sons, of course, it was, but now, my dad with his example, and I guess I kind of came to terms with some stuff, but he 6 kids, 6 different women, and none of us really knew each other, right? However, I found out, I did research several years back, and found my siblings on his side, and stretching from Jamaica up to Canada, right? And I think that is the best. That's I would say that was one of the best gifts that I may have gotten from him, even though I could have walked past him on the street, didn't even know. this is one of the best gifts I think I've got from him, because I've actually physically been able to meet two of them. I've spoken to just about all of them over video. I've seen them face to face on video. One I saw face to face out in Washington State a few weeks ago. My sister, I saw her when I went to Jamaica. I saw her, and she showed me and my wife around. I plan to see them next month when I go to Canada. All of us are expected to be there, so we can all kind of meet one another. And we've had some good conversations, and we've kind of gauged that we've all had our measure of success to some degree, and kind of overcame his absence, right? So things like learning how to change oil, I know how to do that. I didn't know I know how to change oil. These things I learned, after being in the military. I learned how to change oil and stuff. But I also knew that, hey, all right, if I don't know how to change oil, okay, then I'm going to have to be able to afford somebody to do it for me. You know what I'm saying? Certain things. And I say all that to say this, that by having that absence, by not having that there, a lot of the things, I don't think I was able to, even though I did invest stuff into my sons, I don't think I invested as much as I could have into them, because some of the things that I was doing as far as like building different things or certain projects that I was working on, right? I couldn't show them how to do it, so to speak, because I was just learning how to do it myself. You know what I'm saying? So, after I learned how to do some of the things, and if I did some of these things again, then of course, we would do some of these things together. But I tried to be, instead of resting on the fact that my father wasn't there and using that as as an excuse, I felt that my goal was to be to my kids the father that I needed when I was coming up. So, and sometimes I may have missed the mark. Sometimes I did hit the mark. I was hard on them, but life was hard on them. So I was teaching them those lessons. I was teaching them different life skills. I couldn't teach them how to change oil, but I could teach them how to manage themselves and carry themselves a certain way. I couldn't teach them, how to build a desk, but I could teach them how to lead themselves, lead, a project, how to, manage resources, how to be financially, in tune, and be able to, and I show them how you should treat someone you love by the way that they see me treat, their mother. Hopefully, and they take those skills with them. I taught what I could, but there was definitely a learning curve. Definitely a learning curve. But I wasn't meaning to take up some your time. So tell me some of the things that you. Tell me about yourself, Tawanda. Some of the things that you may have gotten like from your dad. And do you think that? Well, first of all, before I even get to that, looking at the as you talked about, and Mark, you weigh in on it. Slim, you weigh in on this as well. I
haven't touched on the gun violence yet.
What's that?
I haven't spoken on the gun violence yet.
Okay, but with the incident that you spoke of, Tawanda, the 12-year-old young man that went and robbed a store at 12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, or do you believe that this is a result of perhaps not having a father in his life? And this is, of course, we don't know his personal situation, but do we think that he may not have had a father in his life, or maybe he had a father that maybe just taught him the wrong things, or do you think that was him not having a father in his life and showing him? Go ahead.
Maybe the father is in his life, but not in his life. Maybe the father is too busy doing other things, or he's not active in his life. It could be a alcohol problem, drug abuse problem, and the kid may feel feel that he's on his own. The father may be in prison. Um, it could be a lot of reasons why the youngster um, did did what he did. But it had to be, a reason why he felt that he had no other means um, to go and did what he did. Because I really believe that if he had a good structure dad around, not someone to raise him and to talk with him, that wouldn't have occurred.
Now, was he what, I mean, he was taken into custody, correct?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
So it didn't end up in a tragedy. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
Yeah.
Slim, what is your take on that? And what go ahead. I'll let you go ahead.
Okay, well, that
But
right there, that's a tree branch of possibility.
yeah.
And dad can be there, mom can be there. Everything's good between mom and dad. Peer pressure always gets kids, you know that.
Hmm.
It's always up to that child, the individual, what's going on in his mind.
That too.
If he has that respect for his parents, every little step he takes, he knows he will, let them down if he does something wrong. Because if that upbringing is rooted in him like it's supposed to, then he will reflect on it.
Hmm.
Sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes um, feeling left out, want to be involved with what they're doing and get caught up with whatever ideas. Uh, Internet being a big factor in showing too much raw information to these kids also.
Yeah.
Um, Dad maybe died at an early age, or he's
Hmm.
in prison, no contact. Maybe he's a sperm donor, don't even know his kid. Um, so many possibilities.
Yeah.
Um,
Question. You just made a good point. So I want to hear and before we continue, anyone else wants to join this conversation, feel free to call in 321-216-6279. I got two people on, but I can plug you in and merge you in this call. Love to hear what you got to say. Now here's a question for the two of you and also whoever may be listening. Father versus dad. Is there a difference?
Yeah. Anybody could be a father. Anybody can produce a baby, but being a dad, it's so much more
Job,
special. It's so much
the
special.
dad is big
Yeah.
time job.
To
You know,
dig into it. Tell me what you mean.
me and Slim, we both feel the same way.
Yep.
Obvious how we both just responded.
Yep. Y'all both feel the same way. Dig in and let me hear. And anybody who listening, go ahead and dig in. I'd like to hear what you have to say too. Feel free to call in
Well,
three two one two one six six
dad
two seven
has
nine. Go ahead.
dad has his way of shining on you at the
Yeah.
right time, at the right time when you need it.
Yeah.
Um, it's like it's kind of like you don't know how to really enjoy yourself with your dad because dad is always strict all the time. He's got that way about him where you don't know how he's gonna react or do whatever, right? You don't know.
He might be a
Like he
little
might grab
crazy.
you out the house and say, "Come on, let's go play some basketball," and you be like, "Huh? Really?" You're
Yeah.
shocked. you know, really? You want to play basketball? All right, let's go. And then you excited. You know,
Yeah.
uh,
Mhm.
you
That's
see him there
me.
watching his. He's watching his news, and you don't want to bother with him. You don't know what kind of mood he's in, but he lets you know if he's in the mood with you, and it's cool. When he's in the mood, you all for it, right?
Yeah.
You head over heels. You
And
know,
it's different with girls though, because my dad, he was the first guy that really told me that I was beautiful. You know,
mm,
and those words stick to you. You're a girl, that you're a beautiful baby, and first dad, to take me out and to take me to a nice, expensive restaurant, and make me so special. And that's
I got to do that with mine. I always tell her she's beautiful and everything, but she is. I got to get a shotgun. So keep the wolves off of that one right there. So
yeah.
I ain't think she was gonna turn out to be that beautiful, but she's beautiful.
All right, all right.
They're gonna be really looking at her.
And that's something too. We're very protective over our young. So it's what well you gave both of y'all gave good examples there. I want to hear what you all have to say. I think there's a distinct difference too, right? Between being a dad and being a father. But also, I think it's dual hat. Sometimes we have to be one. Sometimes we have to be the other. You know what I'm saying? One is dad is like the strict dude that you don't always know where he's coming from, right?
Right.
But then the father, as you get not just the father, but getting over into the fatherhood, right? When you're implementing the principles of fatherhood, well, now you're teaching life lessons.
Like I was a father in my relationship to each of the women's children, and I didn't treat them no different than if it was my own blood. And teach them what I need to teach them, show them what I need to show them, get them to understand the negativities in life when you make those wrong decisions and the outcome of those wrong decisions, which road that can lead you in. And then, put you in a bind financially, credibility, criminal record, whatever.
Yeah.
Give them the understanding life as it is, as they see it, like living in this stolen land as a black man and a black child. Give them that understanding first, because that back is up against the wall from birth, and they got to understand who they dealing with in America first. And every little step you make can make it that much worse, especially if you're stepping down the wrong street. So keep them mindful, and it's not nothing to get them scared, but it is scary within itself.
Well, so, the thing is, you teach them that
it don't need to be a shock when they do it, and then they be like, "Why are they so rough on me?" Because of your status here.
Yeah, and we have. I mean,
who you are.
I teach my boys. When you're born with a window of opportunity that is big. Your window of opportunity is big. However, based on choices that you make, you can narrow that window. As you start to make if you make bad decisions, your window will start to narrow, and so will your options, right? So now, with that being said, decisions that we make when we're younger, we may not realize that those decisions have narrowed that window until we get older. Because decisions that you make when you're younger can come back to affect you when you get older. And you realize just how narrow that window has been made for you. What's that?
Yeah. I said, just like me.
We've all had to figure this thing out. We've all had to figure this thing out to some extent. We've all made different mistakes, and we've all had to recover. But it's important that we go through mistakes and we know how to recover, and that we can pass that on, so that we can tell our young, hey, I know the road you're getting ready to go down. You might want to rethink that. Now, yes, they don't always listen, but just like us, some things we had to learn our own. And we had to get scuffed up a little bit, and you get those bumps, you get those bruises, but those aren't scars, those are marks of wisdom. That's where you've learned. And they've got to learn some of that too. You just got to hope that they don't, go too far off to the right or too far off to the left. You know what I'm saying? To where they're in crisis mode. but just stay within that window where they're still learning and they're still able to learn and recover and you know and grow from that experience. So now as we talk about fathers or dads, what's the best advice that you've gotten from, or what have they poured in you that you poured into your children?
I'm glad you said that. Nothing.
Okay.
Not one thing.
Why so?
Nah.
I've seen and observed the treatment my father gave his wife around the house, the things I've learned and watched him do. But dealing with society and getting me ready for the world, nothing. Now,
Why
I was
so?
going to bring this up, I was going to bring this up, and I was going to talk on it, but you went ahead and went into it.
Go ahead.
I think because of the fact that my dad and my mom was born in the 40s, there was a certain standard for blacks. And everything was secret, being secret. And
Yeah.
if you didn't talk too much. They lived in fear. I'm sorry to say that. Everybody in the 40s and 50s and 60s lived in fear.
Mm-hmm.
30s to 20s, they lived in fear. So they didn't say too much.
Mm-hmm.
Because as kids, you believe you me as a child, if you said certain thing against the others, you know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Your child might speak that out in public, and then where you at? You on the next tree. So can you imagine that? So this is why they didn't say too much, and so that's embedded in them. That's a routine they had to be accustomed with.
That's
So
conditioning.
the only thing they could show you, it was conditioned. So only thing they had to show you was how to,
Get along to go along.
Yes, that's right. Get along to go along. Be a decent person. Don't disrupt the program that's been set before you. Because it is programmed. And had they had told me about certain things, I would have never went down that path. Never. Because I'm the type of person, if I see, like, for example, and my mom always, she laughs about this, if I see somebody on television having a heart attack because of something they ate, guess what? I'm not going to eat that anymore. I don't need a heart attack. That's how I was. That's how I was. And she know that. I will stop eating whatever it is that caused that person to have a heart attack. Oh, boy, you can eat it. You just cut this out. No, thank you. I don't want no more. I passed. And that's how I was. So, had my dad told me certain things, trust me, my life would have been 100% different.
Yeah.
Than what I put myself through for lack of knowledge.
Right.
Lack of knowledge and lack of understanding coming from our elders is very.
Yeah.
That I commend those who just took a chance and said what they had to say to their kids and grandkids.
So now, part of the reason that existed, or they behaved like that, was as a means of survival. You know what I mean? They didn't. They thought that they were protecting you.
Yeah.
Because we all know things that happen. With Emmett Till and some of these other incidents that happened where kids were murdered. And so they didn't want, just like how when you see somebody eat something, you're like, I don't want to do that. Well, they probably saw things coming up, the unimaginable, coming up that they don't want. They're like, well, I don't want that to be my child. I don't want that to happen.
Right.
And so in doing that, they're like, hey, you got to watch what you say. Watch who you say to.
That's the similarity.
What's that?
Can I say something real quick?
Go right ahead.
Just like, for instance, when we moved, my daddy got the promotion at Sears from Jacksonville down to Bradenton. We had to drive.
Nice
down.
area.
I remember getting pulled. We got pulled over by the police, and I didn't know anything about lynchings or none of that stuff as a kid. But my dad was very calm, said what he had to say, and they let him say it. Things like that I remembered as a kid. And not knowing what you were up against growing up, like in the 60s, that was right after segregation. We started going to schools with whites and stuff like that. Some people who went to all black schools, you are lucky. Me, traumatized. I was traumatized as a kid, pretty much tortured. We fought going to school and coming from school every day. And these are things I did not know nothing about. And then they finally told me bits and pieces of certain things. They still didn't go into detail. They just told me, ignore them, try not to get in no fight. That was a big try because I did.
Yeah. And sometimes, with that type of opponent, if you win the fight, you also lose. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
you got your butt tore up because you failed to follow mom and dad's rules, and you trying to figure out, well, why you beat me? Because I'm protecting myself. They didn't want that unnecessary
attention.
Attention coming from authorities coming to the house.
Yes.
See, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And see, up north, it was a little different. I mean, we didn't have that type, but we there was a lot of fights that took place just amongst us, and it was just because people were different. And it was just kids were. I would say, looking back, it's as if kids were angry, right? Some of the kids they just wanted to fight. They just wanted to fight. They wanted somebody they could beat up, or somebody and they wanted to prove, of course, how bad they were, that kind of stuff, right? But kids, it wasn't so much the racism piece of it, but it was more just it was, I would say, kind of low key classism. People just want to feel better than the other person. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm better than this person right here. Because I can beat him, or I can do this, I can do that. So it was more of a egotistical thing, and need to feel good about yourself.
Right, because I didn't really experience. Let me see. Well, I was born in '68, and let me see, went to school around 72, 73. So I didn't really experience anything of the slavery, or the all white school. So I pretty much went through school pretty good, and high school wasn't bad at all. But I can relate with Slim. My dad didn't really show me anything, but he was into got back into my life when my children were born, and he installed in their lives the importance of education.
Yes.
Every day, really, until he passed away. He never ever learned how to read and write. So he made it clear to them that they were going to finish school, their schooling, college, everything. So he was a big impact of their education. He was a impact of the grandkids. Not so Negro, but he loved his grandbabies, and he installed in them education is very important.
That's a very that's a very, very admirable thing to instill, in your kids, and teach them the importance of education, because
Yeah,
know
because I didn't think I mean, not too many people knew that he couldn't read and write. Even Slim, my dad passed away this in March. He passed away, and he had the at the funeral, his pastor was preaching, saying all nice things about him, and I guess up till he got sick, 6 months ago, he wanted to be a deacon of the church, and he went to the pastor, and the pastor said, "Sure, we go through some classes." And Daddy said, "Well, Pastor, I can't read and write." And he was 74 years old, and just they didn't go. I guess he wanted to talk more, but that's where Daddy got sick, and he never did recover from his illness. But what the pastor did was, he said that, James came to me, he really wanted to be a deacon, and he was honest to me. He said he really wanted to do the classes, but he couldn't read and write. And right there and then, that just don't have nothing to do with that. But right now, it does do with education, how important it is to get your finished education.
Well, see, that's
pastor
important.
He can little clip to get to my stepmom. So, to put, how the deacons have their little shirts on Sunday mornings.
Yeah.
Now we made them a deacon. So it's just so special to do that. But education, that's why Daddy, told the kids, it's so important. And I don't even think up to then, the kids didn't even know that their grandfather couldn't read and write.
And see, that the thing that's important about that is the fact that some people, because they don't have education, they have a tendency to not lay a great deal of importance on it for other people. But he realized the importance of that. He realized that okay, he didn't have, and there could be various different reasons, but I could make the assumption that based on the age of your father and stuff like that, there was no opportunity for him to get the education because he had other stuff he had to do. He had to leave school, either not go to school because he had to do other stuff, right? That life sustaining things. So, but he also realized that although he didn't have the opportunity, he was still going to stress the importance of the opportunity to the young and how important it is to them to get that education, because regardless of what education that you get, and the thing about and we've all had people, we all have people in our family, at least of course in our lineage, that they couldn't read, couldn't write very well. The only thing they understood was how to count money. Understood how to count money because they knew that was they couldn't read, couldn't write, but they knew just how much something cost, just how much money they should be getting, and they know how to stretch a dollar. You know what I'm saying? And to them that's the importance of it, because that's life sustaining.
Slim and Larry, he'll go get a newspaper though. That's one thing I never understood. He'll go get a newspaper. Every day he'll go get a newspaper.
Because he didn't want people to know.
He understood by the pictures.
Yeah, he could understand by the pictures. He could understand by the pictures, or he didn't want people to know that he couldn't do that, because that society, somebody in 2022, and we'll just even go back to, let's say before he got sick. Let's go back to 2019. Somebody in 2019 that can't read is looked at differently, because people are just like, how can you not read? How can you not know how to read at this? But because people don't understand and they look at you differently. So these are, and they're just things that and we all do it. He did it his way, but we all do different things to cover up our inadequacies. You know what I'm saying? We may wear a certain piece of clothing because it covers up a scar, because it covers up, or we may wear makeup because it covers up what we believe to be some imperfection. We do something to cover up, something, and this was just his way of doing that and implementing in. You know how in high school, you feel that awkwardness because you're different than other people, but you want to seem like you're normal, just like everybody else, right? Yeah. Well, this was his way, but now imagine doing that, and he's been doing this for years over into adulthood to cover up for that. You know what I'm saying?
The kids didn't know. Think about it.
Where's your dad originally from?
And the kids didn't know. So when the pastor's saying this, and my kids looking at me, and they're like, "Oh, that's why Grandpa always wanted me to come over and help with a resume, or he'll tell the kids to come over and help them fill out an application." It started to click with them, and he called the kids over sometimes, and I'm like, "Where you guys go? Oh, we going out, Grandpa, do something."
Where's your dad originally from?
Huh?
Where's your dad originally from?
Jacksonville.
He's originally from Jacksonville, so from the South. So see, and as he probably, how long has he been up north?
Oh wow.
What's his last name?
No, the reason here's the reason I asked that. He's been up north. I would think for probably decades, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, see, and here's why I asked that, because here's the reason for me mentioning that, because see, down in Jacksonville, he was probably not able to go to school, not able to get that education, right? But when he went up north, a lot of those people of color up there, they could read. They got an education. They've gotten those things, and so.
And he met my mom.
And he didn't want to be looked down on by the other people. You know what I'm saying? That looked like him. That were able to do these things that he wasn't, and that probably made him feel inadequate. And so he other people were something that we would do all the time. The people first, they go get the newspaper. There was just something you do. So he go get the newspaper, so people think that he can do it too. He does like everybody else. So like, hey, I'm gonna go get the newspaper, and then he probably learned stuff that was in the newspaper from hearing other people talk. Hey, I was reading the paper, and this right here was going on. What you think about that? And he just gives an opinion, but people think that he's well read. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? He's able to integrate into that and not feel, and no one's able to tell that he. And some people probably could tell, but they didn't want it. They respected him, and they respected the fact that he, that he was doing what he was doing. You know what I'm saying? So that's probably
Larry,
why. Go ahead.
Larry, and he might be a cousin.
Yeah, that is true too.
We don't know everybody there. They related to us.
We have. Oh man, don't even get me. Jacksonville. There are there's so many family members that we have that are in Jacksonville. It is not even funny.
A whole lot of them down there.
Family, extended family.
Everybody.
A lot of family in Jacksonville alone. There's so much family.
I told my friend, I said I would not ever go there looking for no wife. I might marry my cousin.
That is absolutely why I did not move to Jacksonville, because don't know how many people are related or who's related to who. And all I need is my son to come and tell me he'd have met this girl and all this stuff, and then we show up at a wedding and family on both sides of the aisle, and we're like, wait, we got to stop this.
Yeah. What? I'm dreaming.
Yeah, for real. That is just how much family we have. We have some relatives up there. Yeah. 2 I know of offhand. One had 15 kids. The other one had 14.
Yeah, we got a lot of people down there.
It's
A
not you
lot of
extend that. I mean, that's man. You expand that out. Each one of those kids have kids that have kids. Man, that's a lot. That's almost the whole
Yep.
Duval County.
mhm.
You know.
And one of my cousins out there, he's a deputy. He's a highway patrol member. He up there big time, Travis, and he just love it down there. They all love it down here in Jacksonville. So I got people in Jacksonville and April Springs. So
Yeah, we got them
yep.
all over, all over. So,
Mhm.
so now, with the stuff that's going on now, do you think that? Well, I'm gonna let you. We talked about that a little bit before I go on to the next thing. Go ahead and this gun control. What do you think about the gun control? Now I'll give you my 2 cents afterwards. But let me hear what you think about that gun control there, Slim.
Uh
Man,
oh.
gun control.
Oh. So this
That
gun control
is, yeah, that's out of hand.
is out of control.
Yes.
Out of control.
Yeah, I think too much social media is one thing. Showing other kids with guns,
Yeah.
they shooting them up, shooting them in the air, and then
Yeah. Don't
how they
forget.
like they make these videos pointing the gun at the screen, talking about how I do this to you and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Now wait a minute.
All that craziness going on.
Wait a minute. You remember did you all see the picture that was going around of the young girl in the prom dress and had guns? Lady.
Yep.
Did you all see those pictures? Did you see that, Slim?
No.
You didn't see it? But there was a girl that was it was a prom picture, and she had a automatic rifle laid like on the ground. I think her brother was there,
Yeah.
had a pistol or something,
Yeah.
and she had a weapon. And
Yeah,
I think that
black girl.
yeah, and I think that we do these things thinking these things are cute, but they're sending a message that I don't think is necessarily a good one. We're glorifying these types of things, and then then we're left to wonder why when something bad happens because of these things. If that makes sense.
Did she hurt herself?
What's that?
Did she hurt herself?
Did she what?
No. She was posing the picture.
No, she was posing with the picture. She was posing.
Or her date.
Yeah.
Oh! I
Yeah,
thought she hurt herself.
No, she was posing
No,
with the weapons, and
Yep.
we
They
talk
gotta
about
go for that,
Second
too.
Amendment rights. Talk about
Oh,
Second
my.
Amendment rights, and people have the right to bear arms. Do y'all agree with that?
I don't agree with it. I don't.
Okay, why
I
not?
don't. Well,
Living in crazy America, I guess. Yeah.
Hold on a second, Slim. Okay, why don't you agree with it?
personally, okay. I know. I mean, I already know you. You got your concern. I mean, you come from the service and army. You're gonna feel already a difference because you have to do for our country, and I'm all for you, and I love you for that. But I just think we're just making it too easy. We're making it too easy for young people to get rifles. We're making
Yes.
it too easy for people that are sick to own a rifle.
I agree.
The young kid, and was it in Texas that killed the kids?
Yep.
They knew that he had a problem. That
He
he
didn't
was
have a driver's
depressed,
license.
and that, yeah, and they still gave him a gun.
Yep.
They still issued him a rifle. Now that right there, I don't understand, and it just I don't understand if you're going to have a rifle. For one thing, put it up where your babies can't get it. If you're going to have a rifle home, don't make it so easy for a child to get a gun and kill himself with a gun because you said not to put the rifle up. But it's just too much. Enough is enough. It's too much.
Okay.
It's
All right.
too much.
So what do you
I
think,
think
Slim?
It's just too
Well,
much.
honestly, um, I think when the internet came out,
Hmm.
we did not know how this thing was going to take off, not
Hmm.
knowing that it was just going to expose um, all of America to what the other part of America that you don't see is doing.
Right.
Now, me being a truck driver since '96, I've been in every major city, and
Mhm.
without the internet, we are programmed to do exactly what the next city is doing, and you don't even see it on TV. I'm not kidding. What you see in LA now happens in Florida, New York, and everywhere else. They all doing the same thing without even knowing each other's activity. Internet just made it that much worse
Okay.
because they did not put no laws or stipulations on what they are doing and showing everybody else. All the shooting up in the air during the 4th of July and all this other they showing, talking about what they're going to do to their rivals. And as you can see in
Yeah.
Chicago, how they get caught on Facebook. They
Yeah.
are they need to work for the CIA and catch drug dealers. How you can tell where this person at on Facebook, and he just showing his face, and you know exactly where he at, and gun him down? You
Right.
are good. You are
Now,
real good. You need to work for the CIA.
now here's the thing.
Seriously.
Now here's the thing. And yet, with that
Why-
being said, that's a different discussion, because
Yeah.
as a result of social media, yeah, people have a tendency to overshare too much
Yeah.
information,
Yeah.
too much information on social media. But as we talk
Yeah.
about the gun control, the Second Amendment rights, okay, the right to bear arms. What's your opinion on that, Slim?
Only those who are
Required.
required, yes, and have knowledge
Oh,
of
how-
and training,
exactly. There you go. There you go.
and,
The
and,
tra-
and not just any old Dick and Harry can get a gun. And what's your purpose?
It's
with
just say I gotta go.
just to have it.
Now,
Yeah.
bear in mind, some of the people, not those, I would say not the incidents of late, not the kid in Texas, not the kid, I don't think the guy in Tulsa. Not sure about the incident up in Pennsylvania, but
Uh-huh.
some of these individuals, they are licensed to carry. Now, being
Okay.
licensed to carry requires that you get training. You get gun safety training. It requires that you get that.
They okay. Well,
So-
what I'm saying is, if they know that, like on the news with this, even with the, if we could go as far as Newtown. This young man that went into and killed those poor babies, they knew that he had an illness, and his mother collected all those weapons.
Yeah.
He had, I think he had a permit or something to use those rifles. Why
Yeah.
did they? Why was he able to get a rifle, knowing that he wasn't okay in his brain to?
Well, here's my take on some of these incidents, right? Okay. Now, yes, we know the kid that we know the kid that in Texas. We know that was totally out of order. He should not have been allowed to have a weapon whatsoever. We already know that he shouldn't have been allowed to have a weapon. Mental illness or not, he should have been allowed to have a weapon because he wasn't even old enough to get a license, driver's license. You know what I'm saying? So he should not have even had that. But
Right.
with that being said, okay, I think the reason that he was able to do what he did is because, well, yeah, we can always say mental illness, but we can't gauge. To be honest, you can't always gauge a mental illness, because in some cases a mental illness could be temporary. You don't know what happens. Somebody can be perfectly fine now, and something can happen that causes them to snap. Something something can happen that causes them to snap and make an irrational decision. You all aware of that, right? So now as we look at that, a couple of other factors I think that may come into play with this young man that was down there in Texas is the fact that as we go way back, even before Newtown, we go back to Columbine, and some schools they started doing these drills. They started doing the drills in the event of an active shooter. This is what we need to do, right?
Yeah.
And these are actions that we need to take. And as having been a substitute teacher, I've seen some of the things that we've had to do and some of the different measures that are in place, etc. Well, this is a young man. If I'm not mistaken, he was brought up in that school system, so he knew what protective measures were being taken. So he knew how to combat those protective measures.
Yep.
You know, he shot through the glass. He shot through the window.
Yeah.
He shot, and then he went in. And he knew where the kids. He knew where they were hiding. He knew these things. You know what I'm saying? He knew where to look for this.
You know how they know? You know how they know who's going to... They know that during your kindergarten days.
Well, yeah.
You know how I know? And it's like this is what I found out, that they keep records of everything that you've done. Up to determine who's going to be the next Jeffrey Dahmer or serial killer or some sniper guy. Because as a child, your interest, when you show... When the teacher says, we're going to draw a picture today, that picture goes into your archive that you don't know about. That picture, your grades, and all this other stuff, everything you've done in every grade, they got an archive of something, and it determines who you're going to be, and they can speculate like that. They knew about Jeffrey Dahmer. They knew about Jeffrey Dahmer, all the pictures of him killing cats and animals.
Well, they knew about him simply because, I mean, his mother said that he used to kill animals just to feel the warmth inside of them and things like that. But now I will say this before we get too far off on that. Okay, these things may be true. They may keep an archive of pictures you've done and all those things. But I will say that is not always an absolute. That is a probability that you could be that way. Because there are pictures that I did. There's pictures I did as recent as when I was in high school, my senior year in high school, when I was going through things that somebody saw those pictures that I drew at that time, and I still have them, right? But people will look at those pictures that I drew and think that wow, this guy he's gonna do something to himself, or he could do something to other people. But of course, I've done none of those things. But had I been judged at that time and been labeled at that time, who's to say what my outcome might have been? Now, I'm not saying that again. I'm not saying that these shouldn't be taken into account as some type of factor, but we have to ensure that those aren't an absolute, because that those cannot be seen as absolute. Now, as I was going to say, Second Amendment rights, I believe people do have a right to defend themselves, protect their family, protect their property to an extent. But what I also believe is that, as with anything else, it should be in moderation. For example, a handgun, perhaps 9mm, 45, 38, a pistol, is sufficient enough to protect your property and your family. You do not need an AR-15 rifle.
Yep.
That's what I was about to say.
You do not need, and if you have an AR-15 rifle, it should be a semi, not an automatic.
That's what they were saying.
So now, if you do these things in moderation, I've been to places where they've had 60 caliber machine guns, $8,000, a 60 caliber machine gun, and they're selling it, and people to protect their property. However, you don't a 50 cal machine gun. Anyone that's familiar with those know that for a 50 caliber machine gun, in order, if someone was breaking into my house, hold on a second. I think we dropped. Okay, you back?
Yep.
Okay.
I lost you. I turned the corner back there.
A 50 caliber machine gun. Anyone who's familiar with those knows that if someone was breaking into your house and you have a 50 caliber machine gun to defend yourself, first of all, you got to tell this person, okay, hold on a minute. I got to go get the weapon. I got to go get the barrel. I've got to put that together. I've got to go get the ammunition. I've got to take that out and put that in there. Then lock and load this thing. And then I've got to do it on the ground, because you are not going to hold up no 50 caliber machine gun thinking you're going to shoot somebody, right? So a 50 caliber machine gun is one. A 50 caliber machine gun is similar to, when you well, I'll use an example. You know when you see the tanks on TV, and they have those guns on top, and the person's holding it with both hands like this.
Yeah.
That's like your 50 caliber for the most part. That's a 50 caliber machine gun. You don't need that unless you're going to mount that thing on your roof and you're going to man your house. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that is something that you are preparing for in defense, and you're preparing for. But now, with that being said,
invasion.
That is something where enemy is coming in, and you are going to guard your perimeter. And so you got to have your lines of fire. You got to have. There's a lot of other things. However, if you have a pistol, that's enough to protect your family and your property, right? A hunting rifle, a hunting rifle. Those assault rifles, those are for hunt. Okay, I can understand. Okay, if you're an avid hunter, you go out there, you hunt prey, you do those things. But assault rifles, those are for hunting people, because you're not going to use an assault rifle to go out there deer hunting.
Wow.
You're not going to use an assault rifle to go out there hunting wild boar. Definitely not to go, rabbit, possum hunting. You're not using no assault rifle for that. Those are meant to, and the thing they don't tell you is, like with that AR-15 rifle, a bullet pierces you with that. It is meant to destroy you. Okay?
Yeah.
A 50 caliber caliber bullet is about the bullet end is about this big. It hits you. It's like whatever it hits on you, you're losing that part of your body. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So you don't need anything like that.
For that, when the little kids got killed with those big guns, the doctor said that the people who take care of the bodies, they said they shot over 2 or 3 times.
Yes,
and that's why they want the people the parents to go view the bodies, because they said you don't want to remember them like that.
No,
they said they destroyed them.
And the video from the incident in Buffalo, I saw the video. I saw the actual video, and you see what these things do to people when it's crazy. You don't need that level of weapon. So it should be done. It should be done in moderation. As far as background checks, of course, there should be background checks. There are some states that don't require background checks. There are some states that don't. There are some states don't necessarily require. I don't think necessarily require training, concealed carry training. Some states don't. Some states, I think most states do. You have to have that type of training. If you're military, you don't necessarily need that training. You show them your paperwork, you've been in the military, you're familiar with gun safety. However, with that being said, we need you don't need a high-powered rifle
Jesus.
in order to protect your family, protect yourself. When you use the high-powered rifle, and you know what a high-powered rifle does, it gives an advantage to someone that really doesn't know how to shoot. Because if I'm shooting, and you know this from hunting. I've never gone hunting, but I have used hunting rifles and the like. So you have to aim. You have to have your sights. You have to aim, and you got to shoot.
Yep.
But with a assault rifle, you just got to hold the trigger down and you just spray that general area, and you're going to hit something. And you're going and whatever's in the way. And I know you all have heard the phrase, a bullet doesn't have a name, right? They're going to spray whoever's in the area, and whoever they're going to get some. Innocent or not.
Oh, wow.
A kid that's out there playing in the street, minding their own business, doing what kids do.
Right.
And they could get injured.
It's like how they used to show...
one out at a time, Dave. That's what you're saying?
What's that?
One bullet come out more than once.
No, it's rapid fire.
It's automatic.
On automatic, multiple bullets come out. You pull the trigger once, and the bullets continue. It's on rapid fire.
Oh.
Versus a semi-automatic is one bullet, pop, pop, pop. Each trigger squeeze is releasing a bullet from the chamber. However,
which is more accurate than automatic.
But with an automatic, it's like one pull of the trigger, it keeps shooting. Now you have some weapons, they have semi-automatic. You can adjust it to automatic, or you can adjust it to a 3-round burst, where it just at one pull of the trigger shoots out 3 rounds. So you can adjust the weapon to do so. So
question for you, Tawanda.
Go ahead.
Do you know what a chopper is?
A chopper?
Yeah. You'll hear it in the news, or you'll hear it in music, or you might hear it in the movies.
No,
go ahead.
You know what that is? That's the AK-47. Deadliest gun on the street.
AK-47.
Yeah, AK-47.
Created by Russian and Chinese. They make those guns. They are not a U.S. issued gun.
No, we've seized a lot of those, but I won't go into that. But yeah.
Now the bullets in those guns will go through center blocks, so it'll go through your house wall. It'll go through a car door.
Well, they're 7.62 rounds. They're 7.62.
Yep.
So
what?
Dangerous.
Yeah, those are 7.62 rounds, which is like the same as a M60 machine gun.
Yeah, very dangerous, and that's what's on your street right now. This is what they're using in Chicago, Miami, LA. Been doing it for a minute.
Now, to put it in perspective, Tawanda, let me look at this.
And I don't know where that was before. I forget what city it was, but this guy, y'all remember that guy that was in a hotel, and I think it was something going on. And he was in a and he the gun he used it was so powerful down below. He was just shooting.
Yeah.
And killed all those people on the ground. And he way up high.
Now to give you an idea, a 7.62 is about 1/3 of an inch in diameter, which is a pretty good size. And it's maybe about an inch long, and this the size round that comes out of the chamber of the weapon.
Oh wow!
and now one of those hit you, and I mean, it pretty much it destroys whatever it hits.
Yep, exactly.
And the entrance wound is a lot smaller. It's the exit wound that expands. The exit wound is what really because it something depending on how it is. If it's a hollow point, it explodes on impact and shatters into different pieces. So it's a lot of different, But the thing is, we don't need all of that in order to protect.
Nope.
I could believe, I could agree with maybe 9mm hollow points. I could agree with that. But
22 is dangerous.
What's that?
A 22 is dangerous. It go inside you and bounce around. And
it bounces off of
your
bones
organs.
and it can tear up everything. So now, but I'll say a pistol, I could agree with. But I think that but when we get into assault weapons, we're getting into military grade weapons.
Yeah.
So those are weapons that should be for the battlefield. And anyone that has those weapons, I don't necessarily. Yeah, we do have gun enthusiasts, but I'm hesitant to lean toward gun enthusiasts. Someone who has those types of weapons, they don't necessarily intend to do good with those. And so
Nope, they don't.
And yeah, they don't tend to do good. And when we have situations like what we're having now, and it's becoming more of a systemic problem because you see it's happening all over the country. Do you know that so far we aren't even halfway through the year, and halfway through the year is roughly about 182 days, something like that, right? We're not even halfway through the year, and we're like 215, 216 mass shootings this year.
Yes, that's so sad. That's what I was saying about Hartford. It's crazy out here.
Yeah.
And that's not even counting your neighborhood shootings either.
Yeah, because mass shootings are just the ones involving 4 or more people. Now, as we get to the individual shootings, of course, that number is tremendous. I mean, we look at places like Chicago, one weekend, they're having enough murders that are like equivalent to some countries.
Oh, my goodness.
They're having more shootings and murders in a weekend than some countries are suffering in a whole year, enduring in a whole year.
So you can go. So the people at the gun place who sell these guns don't ask the people why they need the guns.
Nope.
They want the green. The money is green, and they're in the business to make money.
So they don't.
They can fail.
Now, like I said, some places, even if they did ask the question, here's the thing, right? Like in some states, fireworks are illegal. You know what I'm talking about, fireworks. Okay. Fireworks are illegal to purchase for use of, of pyrotechnics, things like that.
Florida was like that for a long time.
Yeah, but the thing is, even in Florida, but you could purchase them in Florida as long as you signed a paper stating you are using them to scare the birds out of your trees. Yes. You're purchasing the fireworks to scare the birds out of your trees. And you're able to buy all the fireworks that you want. I know this for a fact because I used to buy fireworks a lot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
But so the point is, some of the states that do ask these questions, they have a paper saying, I'm going to use this weapon to scare wild animals off my property or something. You know what I'm saying? But of course, they don't necessarily use it for that. And we all know you say what you have to get what you want. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
We haven't done it necessarily on that level, but we've all done it to some extent. Say what you want. Say what you have to say to get what you want.
We did Erica, I don't know where they went. They went somewhere, New York or something. They brought that back over here, back to Connecticut, and back to Hartford. and they lived in Bloomfield. We had a big old function house, and they had the nerve to set those things off, and we didn't know how loud. Oh my God! That's when we knew Bloomfield, Department of Health, police department was coming over, and oh my God! And with their leaves, like, oh, we didn't know. We didn't know they were.
Yeah.
They lit up the sky. They lit up the sky.
Yeah.
Mm.
Now someone put here in the comments, right? I don't know why they allow someone to purchase those types of guns, and let alone how they're purchased on the streets. A lot of these weapons that are coming in that are purchased on the streets, we know those weapons are getting here illegally.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
We know those weapons are coming over here illegally. We know that these weapons that are being put on the streets, we know that we know who's not bringing them over.
Exactly.
But we know who's buying them and who they're selling them to.
We ain't gonna say no more. Exactly.
You know, so
Mm-hmm.
I think we keep losing Slim. We keep falling off.
When
Okay, who we got here?
What you said they put in the comments?
Wait a minute. Who we got somebody else on the line?
That's me, Slim.
Okay, I got you in here twice then for some reason. Okay, you called in twice. Yeah, I don't know why I got you here twice. Anyway, okay, somebody put here in the comments.
Call drop.
Okay, yeah. Someone put here in the comments. And let's see, it's actually Sonya put it here in the comments. And it says, I don't know why they allow someone to purchase those types of guns, let alone how they're purchased on the streets. Right?
Remember, ask that question. Why do they purchase them? Why do they let people come out the stores with them?
And you know, again, as with anything else, as I always say, you got to follow the money. You know, you got to follow the money. These guns, the people are letting them walk out with these guns because money is green, and the money don't know where it came from. You know what I'm saying? So they're out there in the business to make money, not to tell you not to buy their product.
Right, exactly.
And now, yeah, you would think somebody would ask questions, like the kid in Texas. Okay, he goes and buys an assault rifle. Then the next day, he goes and buys another assault rifle, and then he buys 375 rounds.
Right.
Okay, somebody should be asking questions. Maybe it should be something as simple as a registry where you have to report. They have to report certain stuff. Because you know, if you go to put, do you know if you put a certain amount of money in the bank, if you go to deposit a certain amount of money into the bank, right? There's paperwork you have to sign, or or at least they're going to ask you a question. What is it that you do for a living?
So I'm going to ask you questions up here as well. Who is that?
That's fine.
Hello?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. And you got that right with the bank. If you put too much in or taking too much out, they will ask you. You know what's going on.
But they don't ask you that if you get. But they don't ask you that if you buy a weapon. And that's a flaw in the system.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's bad. But I don't see the problem. I'll say this: it's a difficult code to crack, because if you have people out there that are unstable that have weapons, right? You as most people, you know, or I won't say most people, but a good number of people. Yeah, they're going to carry a weapon just to protect themselves against the people that wish to do them harm. So they're trying to protect themselves. Yep. So you got to protect yourself against the evil person that's out there that has a weapon.
And I'm thinking right now, I don't even think you have to do about with the gun sometimes. It's the person. If you are mixed up in your head, you know, you already going to know that you're going to kill yourself. You know, something's not right. You got a gun. You already you already gonna know what you're going to do.
Yeah.
You already cursed this already. I don't know what prevents you. I don't know why you got to go hurt the baby. That's what I'm saying. Why do you have to go and hurt those. What did he get out of going and hurt those kids? And then you gonna turn on her and kill yourself.
I mean, and as you mentioned, Slim, social media, social media.
Social media.
Let's think back to 20. I want to say it was 2017, 2018, when this one guy, I believe it was around Easter, when this guy was mad at his girlfriend and posts on Facebook, he's just gonna go shoot some random person, and went and shot that old man right in the face and put it right there on Facebook. Did it live. Last year, there's a gentleman put it on Facebook. Put it on Facebook, and we can't even say that these are certain demographics that were doing it. These were both African American folks that did this. Put it on Facebook. I got into an argument with my pregnant girlfriend, and
I remember that one.
I shot her, and killed the baby. And the root of all my problems is my ex-wife, and I'm over her house right now. He goes,
yep.
and she comes out, and all you hear him say is, "Today is the day."
Yep.
And then
and the video cut.
Yeah, the video cuts. We see these things. Someone showed me a video several years ago. This was back in this happened here in Florida, and this was back in 2019, I believe. It was like 2019. And this young lady, actually, it was 2019. No, it was. I think it was last year. Anyway, what happened was a young lady got into an argument with another young lady, and they got into an argument. She's posting on Facebook, "Yeah, I'm going to her house right now. I'm going over there to deal with this." Blah blah. Right? She was dating the one girl. They broke up. So now both of them are dating two different people now. And hold on. They both dating two different people now.
Sorry, guys.
And so this girl goes over there. They start fighting. They say, you hear the girl whose house that she went to. She says over to her girlfriend, "Get the gun." She grabs it and she shoots the girl. 27 years old. 27, and everything was on Facebook up to the point that she got shot. And all you hear, and when she got shot, you just saw the camera, you saw the phone fall to the ground, and then of course it went off from there. So
And so like another one, I think this one was like 2017, 2016. The wife was sitting in her car on media, Facebook, talking, and she was kind of drinking, and she heard a couple of shots outside her window, and everybody looking around, but she didn't get out of her car, and she just had a fight with her husband. The husband came and knocked it on the window, and he got a bottle of Grey Goose, busted the window, shot her in the head, and then killed himself. So he thought that he killed her and then killed himself, but she survived.
See? So now here's something too.
Yep.
And many people believe that this gun violence is glamorized and glorified in rap music.
Yeah.
Exactly,
they do.
Me, as a avid rap listener, and when I say avid rap listener, I'm talking about like the old school rap, some of the gangster rap stuff, things like that. But I understand it and accept it as what it is. It is entertainment. It's not anything that's influencing me to go out and inflict some type of gun violence. However, people are seeing these things, or it's believed that our youth are seeing these things and they're emulating this behavior, right? The saying, I heard someone post or someone say that, you know, the rap artists, they send their kids to private schools, but they send our kids to the penitentiaries. Right?
You know what? You know what? Think about something. Our generation, me and you, Larry, growing up, our videos actually had the guns in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
I mean, we came up in the era.
IQ,
We came up in the era of Ice-T, who was the first gangster rapper. Actually, he created all of this. Really, ironically enough, he created gangster rap, and now he's got his whole legacy now is being a cop on TV for like the past 20 plus years, right?
yeah,
But
NWA.
yeah, we came up in the era of NWA. We came up in the era of
Well,
yeah.
me too.
Yeah, you did as well. So I'm saying, yeah, we came up in the era. We came in the era NWA. We came in the era of Ice-T, of just Ice Cube, of Easy E. We came in that era, but we didn't think of you know, we had incidents, different incidents, people getting shot. Of course, we know those things happen, but it definitely wasn't as
No, it wasn't as violent as it is today.
and then we had remember the movies back then. We had Colors. You know, we had the movie Colors back then that was talking about the gang violence. That was emulating a lot. Boys in the Hood. A lot of those movies from that era. We saw those movies, but that didn't inspire us to go out
and do it
and do these things.
No, exactly.
So it's always these influences have always been there. It's just a matter of do you adopt these influences or not? So now, can we blame some of these gun incidents on rap music? Now, bear in mind, we do we blame it on? Can we blame it on rap? Can we blame it on music in general? Rap music, also heavy metal music, which some people refer to that as fight music, because some of those that have committed some of these crimes, these gun violent crimes, we're talking some Caucasian males in their mid 40s. In their 50s. I don't think that they listen to your traditional rap music. I don't think these guys listen to rap music that's inspiring them to commit these crimes. I don't think that this kid that did this thing down there in Texas, I don't think that he was inspired by rap music.
No.
But what we have overlooked, perhaps, is that before all of these things started getting publicized, the shootings that were going on in our communities, going back now, coming around full circle to what you were talking about, Tawanda, with this 12-year-old young man, and then there's constantly instances happening there in Hartford. These gun incidents happening in Hartford, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now these may be inspired by the rap music, but and those have been happening for the longest. It's just that now that it's starting to bleed over into other communities, now it's an issue.
Remember, the rap music is spirit. If you listen to it long enough, you know, like anything, everybody says too much of anything is not good for you. No matter if the doctor says just being vitamins, if you do too much of it, you're going to get some type of effect. So the rap music, definitely, if you keep listening to the hardcore rap every day, and that's all they talk about, you know, it will get into your system sooner or later. And you feel like that's how you need to handle your situation.
So now, does that delve into just having strength of mind? Having a weak mind?
Strong.
Yeah.
You got to understand what you're listening to, that is entertainment.
Yeah, you got to understand the difference between entertainment and reality.
Yeah. Well, no, they used to say if you listen to a song long enough, or if you play a song this way or backwards, it'll tell you the meaning of the words is different, and so that I used to hear that years ago. Though people used to say that all the time. Be careful what you listen to, and
you got to be careful what you listen to. You got to have discernment, right? And you have to have the strong mind. You have to not so. I mean, and then we get into other things. We get into things like peer pressure. We get into those type of things because you gotta have the willpower to say no.
Gotta be strong.
Yeah, you gotta be strong. You gotta willpower to know that I'm not getting involved in this. That's not something I want to get involved in.
Right.
But not everybody has that, and then it comes back around. How big of an impact do fathers in our lives play on our ability to make those type of decisions that can impact our lives or to succumb to peer pressure? How big of an impact do fathers play on that?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Or even
that.
or not maybe not even just fathers, maybe role models. How big of an impact do they play in us making those decisions and being able to, to say, hey, something, I don't want to do that. Hey, y'all, I'm out of here. Some people are about to go do something that you don't want to be a part of. Hey, you know what, y'all, I'm about to go in the house. I'll catch y'all another time. And you don't get involved in that versus being a person that's like, oh, well, everybody else is doing it, so I'm going to do it because I want to be seen as cool like everybody else.
Yeah, man, I had a situation like that. They went and did something. They wanted me to go. I said, no, I'm staying in the house. Glad I did. My friend got shot. He didn't die, but he got shot.
Yeah. I've had a situation where some guys going out to do something, and I was actually in the military. I had some guys going out to go do some stuff, and I was like, no, I'm hanging back tonight. I'm going to be in the crib. And I stayed, and one of them guys, they went out and they sexually assaulted a young lady but they didn't. She didn't point out right away who it was, so all of us that had somewhat of a resemblance in the unit had to go stand in a lineup. Had to go down and stand in a lineup. And even if you're not guilty and you got to go stand in a lineup, that is still nerve-wracking because that person could pick the wrong person and you ain't have nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
So but I would just say I had the willpower, or not even willpower. I just made the decision. Hey, I'm not going out with y'all. I'm not y'all. Or something just didn't sit right, and I just didn't go. For whatever reason, I didn't go. But
sometimes it's that way, where you know that when the best thing is to stay home sometimes. And,
and you can't. And so like how as we get, and these are some of the lessons I guess that we learn from experience. Maybe we learn from our dads. Maybe we learn from just our environment. To stand alone and sometimes be our own people. But fathers play a big impact, I think, in helping to guide us to make certain decisions as well, whether it's, what would my dad do in this position, or, what would my dad do in this position, and I'm going to do the opposite of what he would do. You know what I'm saying? So it could go either way. And we use that to help guide us in our decision making and what we're going to do. So now, mothers that take on that responsibility in the absence of the father, right? How does what's the question I'm looking for? How do you feel about the mother taking on the role of the father when he's absent?
Well, I truly believe in my case, Tawanda's case, that when my ex, my ex got divorced. My son was still very much little, small. I think around 6, maybe 6 or 7, whatever. But he was always clingy to me anyway, and my ex couldn't stand it, and always clingy to me, and but he never really picked them up and spent quality time with him. Never showed him you know what being a man supposed to be, and I don't want to blame it on him, but now my son is gay, and I love him dearly, you
Do you
know.
think that had? Do you think the fact that your son is gay somewhat a result of his father not being there?
hmm
You do?
I think so. I
Okay.
think so. Um, I think he had if he had that a good another. I mean, I was there. I mean, I think I gave him everything he needed, but I couldn't be
A
a
father.
dad,
Yeah.
and my dad wasn't not quite there yet. He was still dealing with his own stuff. So you know, my ex they had them like every other weekend, but my son was just never close to him. After that happened, never close,
Okay.
never. Things just
Okay.
and
So what? So all right. So you think that could possibly be why he's
a little
okay.
bit,
Okay.
but
And how about you, Slim?
What was
Slim?
the question? Yeah, what
Huh?
was the question?
What's the question? The question is, what do you think about mothers that take on the role
Oh,
of the father when the father's not there? I mean, of course, when I say took on the role, I'm speaking like head of household stuff like that. We know. Okay, a mother cannot be a father. We always hear,
uh,
sometimes mothers are also fathers, stuff like that. No, she's the mother. Just like a father can't, a father that's raising a child by himself, he can't fill the role of a mother. That's a gap that's missing.
all right.
But he can just be a
Um,
father.
my wife deals with it every day. When I drive out here, she's got to put on my shoes and try to be mom and me at the same time. Um, sometimes she'll go out there and shoot basketball with him, and he likes it. Or she might do certain things with him now, like parts when he needs to get up and go to school. She calls me up to get him up. So, you know, and
Do you see a change in the dynamic when you return?
yeah, yeah, definitely, yep,
And how does
exactly.
that
Full
make you feel?
360. Well, it makes me feel bad because he takes advantage of the part where I'm not there, and now it looks to me in my eyes, that's like mistreatment to
Kids
his
know how to
mom. And
manipulate.
yeah, and I tell him, I said, Mom, go. That's the one you don't want to mistreat
hmm
because she's been doing everything for you from day one, everything,
Yes.
yep,
and you need to return it. Don't ask why. If she asks you to do something, there's no why I got to. Why? No, stop. Don't even use that word.
Oh yeah. That that
Just
was, that was the
it's
mark
all
of
about
death when we was
doing.
younger.
Yeah, it's all about doing.
Yeah.
yep.
I know if I ask why I get something thrown at me, I ain't gonna do that.
Yeah. For real. And
Yep.
I will tell you, I face that same thing. Because I being in the military, deployed numerous times. My wife had to stand in a lot of times for a lot of events and stuff like that when I was deployed. And we're talking birthdays, holidays, anniversaries, things like that. I wasn't there. And then and sometimes when that happened, you know, my kids were like less than a year, and then I'm
Yeah.
deployed for like a year, come back. The kid's now over a year old, and they don't know who I am. Like, who's this guy coming in here? You know what I'm saying? It's who, and then when they get 5, 6 years old, I've deployed for like a year, come back, they 6, 7 years old, and they're like, who's this guy coming in here trying to regulate, who, and then we have a tendency sometimes, when we come back, we're like, okay, all right, I'm back now, you can go and sit down, I got it. And we can't come in there like that because, my wife is like, hey, wait a minute, I've been running this for a whole year and all this stuff, and all of a sudden you want to come in here and take charge. No, you need to understand you got to integrate yourself in and understand how this process works. Mm-hmm. You can't just jump in there and think you're going to pick up where you left off at, because now that's causing a whole lot of other problems. That's causing problems between you all, and then that's causing problems. The kids are confused, so you've got to try to integrate yourself back into that. And
right.
And yeah, that can be that hurts. That can hurt too, because you've not been there.
Yeah.
You've not been, and it is not that you are not there by choice. That's the nature of the beast. That's the job.
But the thing about that is that your children will see, especially your son.
Speak up. You're fading out on me.
That the things that your children will see, especially your sons, that you are doing what you got to do as a dad, and making all the sacrifices for the family. You're not doing it for self.
Yeah. One thing that really brought it to reality for me, my son was getting an award, and he didn't mean it the way it came out, but he was like, he get an award, and he gave his little speech, saying, I was sitting in the audience, my wife, my other sons, and he was like, yep, and I want to say thank you to my mom, who was there when my dad wasn't. And I'm like, and I'm like, wow, okay, But he didn't mean it in a malicious way, but in a way that's kind of like a punch right there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you're thinking, wow, but in our minds we're doing the things we need to do, and we're doing the things we have to do, and we're providing the livelihood, providing all of those things, the financial things, and stuff like that, so they don't want for anything.
That the financial, the money issue, and just because he was an excellent provider, and that's all. He used to always say that I'm giving this to you every week, monthly. This for the kids is excellent, taken care of, but it's not all about money all the time.
No.
Spend time with them.
Character is something that money can't buy, and it's a lot more valuable than money. Instilling character, instilling the time.
Money isn't the issue. I want it for nothing. Nothing. So, but, they still needed your attention.
Yeah.
The girls did it, but he needed your attention.
Yeah.
CDJ came out and somebody posted it, what he said on that situation right there.
Yeah.
You can't have daddy the way you really want daddy.
Mm-hmm.
Because if daddy stays home with you, bills don't get paid. So, it's just like the way he put it is like, you're gonna have to work with daddy.
well, we could, and I'm not going to delve into it too much, but that's the same thing with relationships. You want somebody that's a good provider, then you've got to come to the conclusion that person's not always going to be available.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you want somebody that's going to provide, that's going to pay bills, going to do all of these things, then you also have to come to a realization this person is not going to be available all the time. Now, if you have somebody that's going to be available to you all the time, then you got to come to accept the fact that there's some things you're going to have to live without. If this person's going to be there in your face all the time, that means they're not up in the job's face where they can be providing or or contributing to the livelihood. So there are things you've got to come to a realization. You're gonna have to come to terms. Okay, if I'm gonna have this, I'm gonna have to go without this. But if I'm gonna have the food, the house, the car, the things like that, substance, then I have to realize that the sacrifice is the time on both sides.
Yeah, I was cool with that because I understood what I wanted, and that's what I wanted. A lot of women couldn't do that, but I wanted to stay home. I'm the woman that like to have everything prepared for my husband. I love doing it. I love cooking. I love entertaining. I love coming home and and the kids running up and running to the refrigerator to give him a nice cold beer. I love stuff like that. I like taking care of my own kids. So he knew what I didn't want to go out and wanting to work, and I had all that other stuff. So I understood how people say I understood my assignment. I like that. Somebody said that to me. I said I'm gonna that. I understood my assignment.
Right on.
And you are very rare.
That's a fact too. Yeah.
Very rare woman.
Look, we're not gonna get into that because being able to cook and all that stuff, and we got a generation now that can't even make a good picture of Kool-Aid. You know what I'm saying? but look, that's a whole that's gonna be another. We're not gonna talk about that right now.
Yeah.
But on a serious note, we did this and I'm gonna wrap this thing up soon because it's like 9:00. The gun violence, something needs to happen. We're losing our young. Maybe I don't know what the answer is with our young men. Whether it's, the easy answer would be, we need role models out in our communities, etc. But do we necessarily have that? No, we don't have them at the magnitude that we should. But then also when we have events and things like that, we don't. The young men don't necessarily come out there either. When we have those things, so we need to have maybe some type of way to get that done. We could easily say, okay, go into the schools, but when we go into the schools to speak to some of the kids, stuff like that, we don't get a whole lot of people to go do that. A lot of fathers, they're not there for whatever reason. The easy answer would be, they're locked up. But that's not the case. Society would have us believe that, a good portion of those that look like us are locked up. That's not the case. It's now some are just not involved. Right? Some are just not involved, and that could be on both parts. That could be, the dad not wanting to get involved. But then that could also be the mother not wanting the dad to be involved. That could also be where the dad, the father is not able to, to give the money that she wants, and so she holds the child from the father. But then it could also be the other way around, where the father just never wanted to be a father. He just feels that he's not where he needs to be, and he separates himself from the situation. None of these are good reasons. These are just things to look at, and I guess we it's really important, and especially in our communities, that we try to figure this thing out, and teach these kids. Back in the day, you have a dispute with somebody, you settle it with the hands, and that's it. You know what I'm saying? And you live to go another day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that selling with your hands is the right answer either. Violence is not the answer. However, when you're dealing with young men in particular, although now you have women out there getting in fights and getting in stuff just as much, if not more, than some young boys are. But when you look at the young men that are out there, young boys, they got this testosterone, they got this frustration, they got to release this energy.
Mm-hmm.
And the way they release this is in a toxic way. And sometimes, as I always say, we know better, we do better. The problem is sometimes we just don't know better. And if we don't know better, then we make bad decisions. You know,
That's right.
we live in a society where we have some dumb people with very smart phones, right? We overshare, and then we use these phones as a tool to influence our behavior. We couple that along with these other factors, which are, you know, we go on social media, we see people waving guns around, we see these websites or these videos that are going around, people fighting in the streets, all these different incidents happening, and then our young kids go out there and they try to top that, or they emulate what they see that's out there, and lives end up getting lost.
Mm-mm.
And these things are now becoming an issue because we have people that are outside of the normal communities that this is now starting to affect. Now that it's stepping outside of our communities and going into other communities with people that don't necessarily look like certain demographics, now all of a sudden it's an issue. When these are issues that have been going on for the longest. So we just need to find a way to address it. And there's no, of course, this show right here, you know, is not going to come up with a solution, but it's just things to think about. And maybe we can, you know, we can all just maybe do our part, you know,
Right.
our part to do stuff like that. Fathers could be is just one layer, just one level. Fathers is just one dynamic in the whole
let me
thing.
get back on here before you
Yeah.
end it.
Fathers are just one piece of the pie, right? But we need not just fathers. We need uncles. We need cousins. We need brothers. We need just role models out there on the street. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Village.
to go out.
You need a village.
Yeah. We say that it's a village, but in that village, we need to have the right people. We need to have responsible people. We need to have
Right.
people that know what right looks like. They're not afraid to share, and then do so
Yeah.
without judgment. You know, do so without judgment, because judgment sometimes turns people away. You have to, okay, I understand what you're trying to do, young man, but you about to get yourself hemmed up. This is what you need to do. These are the right actions you need to take. You know, yeah, we can, because ultimately, just like with our kids,
Mm-hmm.
we can tell our kids what it is. We already have, when our kids are born, we have an expectation. Oh, you know, my son's going to grow up to be a doctor, and he's going to do this and he's going to do that. Or my daughter, she's going to grow up and she's going to be a doctor, or she's going to be an engineer, or she's going to, you know, do these. And we can tell them the importance of school. We can tell them the importance of going on to college. We can tell them all of these things. But ultimately, as they get older, they either go that way or they don't. You know, or they may realize later on down the road, you know, I wish I would have listened. Well, I wish you would
Right,
listen
yeah.
too. However, now I wish you would listen too, but here we are. So you can, you know, you can do that, and we have we have to have these honest conversations with our kids too. You know, if your kid talking about I want to be a doctor, okay, and then they getting into college, and their first year in college, they're failing science, they fail in math. You got to sit down and have that hard conversation. Look, I understand that's what you want to do, but that may not necessarily be in the cards right now. Maybe you need to let's sit down. Let's talk about what your strong points are, and things, because you just need to look at getting a degree in something, and maybe getting a degree leaning towards business, maybe something you may be more inclined to do now. Perhaps later on down the road, you mature a little bit, you might move on into medical school or something like that. But right now, this may be what's in the cards for you. I've had to do that with myself. I knew math wasn't my thing. I had to choose a major that highlighted my strong points, which were, you know, I got very interested in speech when I was in high school, and so I knew that was a strong point. I knew maybe English, things like that, was like a strong point. Math was not. Science, I was okay in science, but I know when it came time for me to choose a major, and I didn't choose a major to my junior year in college. When I got that letter saying, if you don't choose a major by the end of this semester, you will not be here for the next semester. Right? And so I went ahead and I had to weigh my options, look at my strong points, do that self-assessment, what they call a SWOT analysis, which is, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, what are my strong points, and then I had to choose something that was along lines with that and went with it. And we have to have these hard decisions with our kids. Yeah, college is not for everybody. Anybody can do it, but not everybody wants to do it, and everybody's not meant to do it, and that's fine. But we need to instill in them that, okay, whatever it is you decide to do is not on the business end of an assault rifle.
That's right.
Whatever it is you decide to do is not in the business of going robbing, stealing, cheating, doing those type things.
Amen.
So what are the things that we can do to try to instill in our youth, not just our young boys, but in our youth, to be productive citizens, people of character, men and women of character?
You know what I'm about to say?
Go ahead.
You know what I'm going to tell you? Remember, I like to always talk about the past.
Yep.
In our situation, dealing with America, our past reflects our future. Everything our forefathers went through, we are going through also, just in a different way.
I said that.
Now, is that a problem? Is that a problem?
It's just in a different way. Now, here's the thing. Making the young generation aware what was done and what's happening to y'all now should open up somebody's eyes.
Yeah.
Because if you don't give them awareness, they just gonna keep doing what the next brother's doing because that's his homeboy or that's his cousin or somebody their age they can relate to. It's not a relation, no relation.
That was my open statement when I first started talking about my whole thing about the 12-year-old boy. He sees what his father did, his grandfather did, and so if this doesn't stop, if someone don't stop and talk with this kid, he's going to keep on going on and on and on until somebody stops and change the cycle. Here's
the thing with that. You got to get them to realize that you are set up to fail here in this land. Yeah, there's opportunities if you're going to play with the Joneses. If you're going to play, they'll let you in. If not, you're going to do with everybody else. Stay in the barrel with the rest of the crowd. The other people, everybody calls them the Uncle Tom. The Uncle Tom. I'm sorry, but in this land, you're going to either be an Uncle Tom or you're going to be a crab. Now, here's the other situation with that. They got to understand who they dealing with and what they dealing with. Because if they're not aware of their own actions, this ain't going to stop no time soon. It's going to get worse.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy.
But isn't this the same thing we were saying back in the 80s and 90s?
Yeah, it was. And they did put effort with the gangs. They did make an effort. L.A. influenced all of America, but America showed it to the rest of America.
Did we really make an effort when we were talking about war on drugs, but you're not winning a war that you're not really fighting?
Yeah. No, we didn't. No, we couldn't win that because I ain't gonna say who was on that, but
we know
a lot of speculation.
You can't win a war that you're not fighting, and you got to follow the money.
Exactly.
You got to follow the money.
You weren't part of the fight. You
exactly.
weren't part of the fight.
Exactly. So now, if we're saying the same thing they were saying back in the 90s, right? About our past.
That's right.
We don't know our past. We don't know our history. Or we destined to repeat it, stuff like that. But if we know these things, because this is not new information, why are we still?
That's all I just was like. You gotta know our way. You gotta know. I mean, if we don't know, we're gonna keep on doing the same old thing.
But the thing is, we know. We know now.
Now
We know
here's
now.
another thing.
Go
I
ahead.
hate to bring this in. I hate to bring this in. Scriptures have spoken to a lot of people that are not being spoken in churches properly. The preachers get up there, they dictate what they want to preach. They're not going to step into certain realms in the book. Some
Well-
preachers will, some preachers don't.
Well, as
That's
you,
why these scriptures,
well, as you
hold on,
say
hold on.
that,
these scriptures, hold on,
Go ahead.
let me finish. When these scriptures point out, when it's talking about an individual group that will go through a certain thing, my whole heart believes, and it's talking about us.
We were talking
Well-
The whole book of Deuteronomy talks about us
yeah.
and what we've been through and what we're going to go through and when we're going to get out of it.
Yes, sir.
well, I'll say
I'm
this.
not talking about nobody else but us.
I will
Yeah.
say this: the preaching of now is not the fire and brimstone that used to be preached back in the day.
Right.
The preaching of now is the prosperity. He did it for me. He'll do it for you. It's
how to fix your-
I don't want to offend anybody. In some cases, some churches, not all, of course, is turned more into a business. I don't want to offend anybody because I need to continue to get the tithes to come in. And so we I mean that we can go on a lot about that, and we'll probably get into that stuff later on. Some of the how we've gotten away from the fire and brimstone and a lot of those things.
Well, let me tell you why I brought that up.
Go ahead.
It said the children of Judah will go through something. The kids, our kids, supposed to go through something. And when I like to call the Willie Lynch letter the Willie Lynch Bible, it also speaks in that if you do what he says do, that these children will be disobedient to their mother and their father. That they will hate each other because one is dark and one is light.
What book is this?
That's the Willie Lynch letter. I like to call it the Willie Lynch Bible.
Oh, the Willie Lynch
Look that up
papers. I know what you're talking
online.
about. Yeah, the Willie Lynch papers. Yeah,
The
yeah,
letter. You could look that up, read it,
yeah.
and it'll pretty much.
You can order it right now on Amazon. It's like $3 for the book. Yeah.
You read that, it will pretty much put you to tears because exactly what we're going through is written in there, and that was written a long time ago.
Well, as we get into Willie Lynch papers, and we'll delve into that later too if y'all want to talk about it later. But
Right.
when you get into the Willie Lynch papers, the Willie Lynch papers says that if you implement the tactics and techniques that he lays out in that document, you won't have to do anything. You just sit back and watch, and we would do it to ourselves. And that's exactly what
That's
we're doing.
right.
That's exactly what we're doing.
That's
We're
right.
doing these things to
That's
ourselves.
why you got to understand. These kids got to understand the condition they're in. It is a what? It is a curse.
And then,
like somebody put voodoo on you.
well, that's when we get into the generational curses. You know what I'm saying? Because these things are carried on time after time after time. You know what I'm saying? And it's all because, I mean, we separate ourselves, light-skinned African Americans versus dark-skinned African Americans. One's with the good hair, one's with the not so good hair.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
and
all in the letter.
then one of the things we do to make we as a means to make ourselves feel better, and to have the straighter hair and things like that. The hair industry is a multi-billion-dollar business now, because we're buying, people are buying this stuff, right? And but it all comes down into that realm, those Willie Lynch papers, etc. But they telling me it's time to wrap this thing up. Yeah, it's like 9:30.
All right, brother.
It's been a great conversation with y'all, and I want to say thanks to Sonya for talking in the chat here, and hopefully we can get you to call in. She had a good comment here about Says she feels like we as women step in to fill the role. We do a good job, however, we can't literally take the place of the father or the role the men play. There's some things we can't teach, and that's true. There's some things you can't teach, and some of us, it's a learning curve as we stumble through and figure it out. But again, we're all in here trying to figure this life thing out anyway. So, and we all do the best we can with the tools we're given, and in hopes that we don't hurt ourselves or somebody else in the process, right?
Yep.
But with that, we'll go ahead and let me get the final word from y'all. What you ladies first, Tawanda, what's your final word?
Yep.
It was good talking to you guys as always. It's the beginning of a new week. Make sure you guys tell someone that you love them. Encourage someone that may need some good advice. Make sure just give somebody a hug, and let them know that you're there. Keep trusting, keep going, and keep moving forward, and never give up.
All right, thank you very much. Thanks a lot, Tawanda. And Slim, what's your last word, Slim?
Well, my last words is this. On this subject, fathers and gun control and things like that, very nice subject. One last thought is that our people, more of us are waking up every day realizing what we have put ourselves in. Those who, like, for example, anybody who's listening who's been to prison has figured out where they went wrong and that it was all a setup. They have a job to do now to teach these young kids about that setup. That is one thing. That is the village coming together to teach your kids and help raise them in the right way and move them forward in the right direction. We also got to not be hiding underneath the blanket, feeling scared. I will never, ever feel scared to tell anybody the things I've learned and found out living in this country, what you're up against. I will not let no child bump their head, even my own. And we have to do, we have to dig in and dig deep. There's a lot of hidden secrets regarding our people. This is one reason why they don't want to teach Black history, because the skeletons will come out. And you're going to be shocked that you've been lied to ever since you were born in this country. You were lied to. The skeletons will come out. You're not who you think you are. You're not. They don't want to touch on that.
All right.
In the meanwhile, I want to thank you for letting me come on here and do my thing. Yes, I will get you some new music. I don't hear it playing in the background.
Yeah.
So.
and we're gonna talk about a couple other things we were speaking about as well to get this thing up and going.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, oh yeah. That too. Yep, that too. I know what you're talking about.
All right. Talk to you later. Thanks for calling in.
All right, bro.
Okay. What I want to say to everybody, right? As we wrap this thing up, okay. The gun violence, of course, we're not going to solve it at one show, but hopefully we have some good talking points, things that you can think about, and maybe we can put our heads together, or maybe come up with different ideas to try to combat this thing. Now, as we talk about the young men, young women that are out there and how we can impact them, what I would say is this: as we start a new week, I would say if you see a father out there. You see a father out there, you see a male role model out there that is doing the right thing, that's making an impact. You see them out there, acknowledge them. Say, hey, something? I see you. You're doing all right out there. I appreciate the things that you're doing for our community. I see the way you handle your son right there. I like that. Give them some props, as they say, some compliments. Let them know we're being seen out there. And also, as we go out into this week and into the future beyond. This week and beyond into the future. Let's go out there. Let's set some good examples. Let's set some good examples out there. Let's set examples for those people around us to emulate. And then let's learn from everybody and let's share what we know and let's reproduce what we are so we can grow our communities, grow our young kids, let them know, hey, violence is not always an acceptable way to express yourselves, right? You use your words as everything that you do from a child on into adulthood, you're building a resume whether you know it or not. This young man, as Tawanda mentioned, 12 years old, goes out, robs a store. He has built a resume. That's on his resume now. That's on his record now. So these are things that we need to take into account. As we go out as adults, as fathers, as parents, as uncles, brothers, cousins, etc., what do we want our legacy to be for the youth that's coming behind us? And give that some thought. And if we're not emulating what it is we want our legacy to be, then let's find a way to adjust that so that we can, move forward. So as I wrap up this show, I want to tell everyone thank you very much. Those of you that hung in there that listened to us for the duration of the show, those of you that came and chimed in on the chat, those of you that listened, that watched, that made contributions, and hopefully, gave you some good thought-provoking talking points as we had our discussion. As I always say, you all could have been anywhere at this point in time. However, you chose to spend this point in time with us. I know some of y'all could have been watching the game. Some of y'all were probably watching the game while you're watching the show. I want to say appreciate you taking the time out to do so and to give me your support. We are, as I like to close every show, we are all, life's journey is a lesson, and the classroom is always open. So let's live, let's learn, let's grow together as we move forward. I hope that you all have enough nourishment to take you on into the next week. I will not be here next Sunday as I will be traveling and I have some other personal tasks I need to do. However, I will be returning on Father's Day, which is also Juneteenth. And we're going to have a discussion about Juneteenth, and we may tap a little bit more on fathers, as well as a couple other topics that we'll have in mind. And as usual, you all can guide the discussion. But that's enough of me. I want to say you all have a very great, productive, and blessed week. And I will see you all in a couple weeks.
Assurance Palia, assurance machine, caille commerciale, vie, santé et latrière, prix compétitif. Là, dans First Class Insurance and Financial Services, il y a un professionnel courtois, compétent et conséquent capteur là. Jean-Claude Jonassin, First Class Insurance, 6003 Babcock Street, Southeast Palm Bay, Florida, 321-727-8142. 321-727-8142. First Class Insurance, c'est lui. Ou besoin d'un professionnel réel dans les affaires d'assurance, parce que dans les affaires d'assurance, pas gain avance, libre en chance. Nous recommandons rien seul là, Jean-Claude Jonassin, maître question dans le domaine d'assurance. Quelle que soit l'assurance, assurance machine, caille commerciale, vie, santé et latrière, prix compétitif. Là, dans First Class Insurance and Financial Services, il y a un professionnel courtois, compétent et conséquent capteur là. Jean-Claude Jonassin, First Class Insurance, 6003 Babcock Street, Southeast Palm Bay, Florida, 321-727-8142. 321-727-8142. First Class Insurance, c'est lui, oui. Ou besoin d'un professionnel réel dans les affaires d'assurance, parce que dans les affaires d'assurance, pas gain avance, libre en chance. Nous recommandons rien seul là, Jean-Claude Jonassin.